we can get started. I will turn my camera on briefly just because we don't get to see each other's faces anymore. It's kind of one of the downsides is that we're getting to participate in GSA from wherever we happen to be, but we don't get to necessarily see each other all that much. So I just want to welcome everybody to the what is our typical award celebration. Usually we do it in the conference hall, but we're going to try this webinar style version, and I'm very happy to see we have so many people joining us. Looks like we have about over 40 people here, so that's great. We'll get started with just a brief overview of the Code of Conduct. GSA has made a lot of great sort of strides in creating a really respectful and harassment-free venue for not only meetings, but all other GSA activities. So their Code of Conduct, which I encourage you to take a look at if you haven't done so already, it basically tells, has the guidance of being considerate, collegial, and collaborative, make it clear that we welcome a diversity of individuals and all their perspectives and identities that we have in the room, the more the better, and be aware of our own potential biases and comments and behaviors that we make, and that we need to work to eliminate harassment and bullying wherever they occur, whenever they occur. One other comment, we will be showing a few slides of presentations, poster content, things of that nature. So for this and other parts of the GSA Connect Online, just don't presume that you can share whatever pops up on your screen. You need to have the presenter's consent always to make any kind of copy or to share their work. And if you happen to see anything or aware of anything happening in GSA Connects Online, this event or any event in the future, GSA has a number of ways to report these concerns through their email, the ethics@gsasociety.org. There's a phone number you can call, and there's people around that are the Respectful and Inclusive Scientific Events RISE liaison, and any GSA leadership personnel can help you with that as well. So we have a lineup that I hope I can get to next. There we go. What we're here to do tonight is to recognize some of the awesome work that people have been doing in the field of sedimentary geology. I'll give you a quick update on the Sedimentary Geology Division, who we are and what we've been up to. Reinventing how we communicate is one of those things. I'll hand it over to Mike Bloom briefly, who will give us a quick review of what SEPM has been up to. And then we are going to recognize our student awardees tonight. We have Jessica Raff of Vanderbilt University, who will tell us about her research from her award-winning project that she has a little bit to share with us. And then we will be announcing the winners of the poster competition. And then I have a brief announcement for the Laubach Award, and then we will hand it over to Thomas Algio to recognize Carlton Brett, who will then speak about his experience and his career, which has earned him our highest honor of the division. That's the Lawrence L. Sloss Award. So here's the current makeup of the Sedimentary Geology Division Board. It includes myself. This is the first year that I am serving as chair, the sort of concluding of the first year. I took the reins from our past chair, Gary Giannini, who I don't know if he's here tonight, but we definitely appreciated his efforts through the years. And then we were joined by Brian Hampton, who is serving his first year, unprecedented and wild ride of a first year as vice chair, and Brett McLaurin, who has been our awesome secretary treasurer for the past few years. We also have Stefania Laronga, who has been amazing as a webmaster. And we have two student representatives who do amazing work as well. Anthony Edgington, who is sadly for us, but happily for him, finishing his degree and will be moving on from his role as a student representative. And we have Sharif Mustaki, who is also our student representative, who will be able to hang on to. So we are looking for people who will be eager to join us and help us out as we continue to try to reach out and create some engaging opportunities for people in the sedimentary community. And some of the thanks that I want to express at this time go out to our 54 topical session conveners that have put together an amazing list of sessions that are going on at the GSA Connects Online. I know it's been kind of a new format for us all. We're getting used to that, and it was very brave and bold and very, I guess we're very appreciative that these people took the jump and were willing to convene a session kind of in these unprecedented circumstances. So thanks to them. We also had a wonderful group of people who participated as poster judges. So we had our student poster competition that I'll be updating you in a moment. And we had a number of people step up and provide the scores and input that allowed us to identify the winners. I want to thank them. Ryan Morgan has been our Joint Program Technical Committee representative and has done a fantastic job for almost too many years. We keep roping him into more and more years. And if you guys, we hope that there's somebody out there who might be willing to either help Ryan out or fill his shoes, because we need some more representation from the said division on that Joint Program Committee. We also have a group of folks who have been overseeing the Sloss Award. Brett McLaurin, along with Margie Chan, Ken Miller, Isabel Montanez, Carrie Johnson, Paul Myro, and Jeff Trope did some great work. And I also just want to shout out to Dominique Olvera at GSA, who's really been instrumental in keeping our divisions functional, especially in the light of all that's been happening the last few days. So I want to take a moment to present to you the sort of assessment that our division has made in terms of who we are. There has been a lot of discussion about improving the conditions in geosciences in general and in sedimentary geology specifically to make it a more inclusive space. And so we have clearly a lot of work to do. On the left-hand side, you can see our makeup in terms of gender, self-reported gender identity, and self-reported ethnic identity. This has been a persistent plaguing problem, and it's going to require increased effort. And we are actively discussing ways to up our effort, and not only in the Sedimentary Geology Division, but also in SEPM, who recently had an article published by many authors about actionable ways that we can address this, the impact of systemic racism in particular on the geosciences. So we're looking at ways to do better on this issue, and some of those ways are going to be discussed very shortly, including right now. We have some openings in our division that we would love to see filled by you. And this is where I get to launch a poll, which I've never done before on GoToMeeting, but I'm going to be discussing these positions briefly and then launching a quick poll. If you have any interest or curious about potentially serving in one of these roles, we would love to have you. It's been a lot of fun, and also kind of very creative aspect of what we do, and trying to figure out how we can come together when the COVID world has made that a little bit more challenging, and our old ways of doing things have to be reimagined. And so we definitely want new voices and new insights in there. So we've got our student representative position that is open to students of any rank. So you could be fresh to the geology, sedimentary geology scene. You could be, you know, a PhD student kind of in your last stages, whatever range of experience you have is fine. We love to get the insight from students, and they're incredibly active in our social media promotion, and they give us great insight to help us make the best use of our division efforts. Also, the Joint Technical Program Committee Liaison, they basically help make sure that sedimentary geology is well represented at all of GSA meetings. And then the Sloss Award, which evaluates the Sloss nominations that we receive. We also are going to add a couple new positions that you could potentially be interested in serving. We want to have a second vice chair. Many divisions have this position, and we feel this is increasingly important as we're going to try to expand our online interactions, and we want to also make sure that we can basically have another arm of our board that's focused primarily on that. And then we also are following the footsteps of the geochronology division that implemented a diversity coordinator position. And so that would help us maintain some resources on diversity inclusion, help us do more with the GSA's Onto the Future program, and address some of the problems that I was outlining in the previous slide. So I will launch this poll that will basically ask you if you are interested in participating in any of these positions. And we're a friendly group. It's been a real pleasure and privilege to get to know my fellow board members. You know, if you're like me, you kind of get involved in GSA as a student. And getting involved in the division kind of lets you see more about how the society works and all the amazing services it provides, and how it's really striving to be the best source of community for the geosciences. So I think it's you know, anybody who would have a slight interest in giving back to GSA or just learning more about the society would really have a great time with this opportunity. So we got we got about a third of the people responding. I think I have to, I'm not sure what I have to do, but I'll give you about, oh, it stopped. There it went. So if you responded, great, we'll be in touch with you. I appreciate the interest, and yeah, that's one way we're learning about how to engage with people in this remote platform. All right, so now I'm going to hand the mic over to Mike. So there we go, Mike, you can take it away.
Hey, Amy, thank you very much. And hello, everyone. I'm Mike Bloom. I'm president of SEPM this year, and I think next year too, actually. And it's my pleasure to give you a few announcements about what the society has been doing. And I think the most important thing I want to stress is the upcoming, hopefully upcoming, International Sedimentary Geology Congress. This was something that was scheduled for last April, and for obvious reasons was postponed, and we're hoping that we can hold the event this year. It will be a hybrid in-person and virtual event. And so we're really excited about that. The program from last year was really exciting science. I think everyone in the Sedimentary Geology division would really enjoy, and I hope to see everyone there. The second thing I'd like to just building on what Amy was just mentioning, we're as a society having a lot of discussions about diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. And we're working on some actions and activities that can enhance our own diversity and, of course, eliminate things like harassment and other unsightly and unseemingly bad behaviors. We too have a code of conduct that has many of the same elements that you just heard from Amy, and we're very similar in terms of the distribution of our demographics as well. We're similarly we're a little bit under 30% female, and we lack diversity just like a lot of the geosciences do, and so we're working really hard to try and work on that issue and improve it. SEPM does have a virtual booth. I have no idea personally what that is. I haven't been to one yet, but we have one, and it's booth number 17. And then just another little business item, we are updating our websites, so please take a look and follow what's going on in the society at SEPM.org. There's a blog on there too. If you feel obliged to comment on things, please do. We like to hear from everyone. And then I guess the last thing is that the best part of my job is to be able to contact people about the awards that we are going to recognize them with. And the second best part is actually giving them the awards. And about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now, we had our postponed 2020 Science Awards ceremony. It was originally scheduled for the flagship meeting, or the Flagstaff meeting, and had to be postponed. And so we did it virtually about 2-3 weeks ago, I suppose. And at the same time, we were getting in the finalists for the next year's awards. And so they are now, all these people have been notified, and it's really interesting because all the emails that I received from them, uniformly, everyone had the word "wow" in the first 4 words of their emails. And so it's just a great pleasure to be able to let people know that they're going to be recognized like this. So the next year's Science Awards, the Twin Hopeful Medal, the highest award the Society gives, will go to Terry Jordan from Cornell for a career of outstanding work in many different parts of the geosciences. Honorary membership is going to go to Kitty Milliken, Bureau of Economic Geology at the Jackson School, UT Austin, for her really very long career devoted to the Society and all the different things she's done for the Society. The R.C. Moore Paleontology Medal will go to Nigel Hughes from the University of California, Riverside. It's very interesting that his name came up in our ceremony last week when we gave the R.C. Moore Award to his wife, Mary Drozer. And so he'll get to be the featured person in the award ceremony next year. The Francis P. Shepard Marine Geology Medal goes to Stan Riggs from East Carolina University. And the Francis J. Pettyjohn Medal for Career of Excellence in Sedimentology goes to Isabel Montañez and from UC Davis. I note that she is also one of the people on the Sloss Award Committee for the Sedimentary Geology Division. The William R. Dickinson Medal for recognition of a mid-career impact to the sciences goes to Carrie Johnson from the University of Utah. She is also on the Sloss Award Committee. And then last but not least, the James Lee Wilson Award for recognition of early career impact goes to Emily Smith from Johns Hopkins University. Okay, Amy, I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mike. Appreciate that update. Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch, and we'll have SEPM to thank in a slide or two for the help with the student poster awards, which is always a great part of every annual GSA. So thanks, Mike.
You bet, thank you.
And speaking of the student poster awards, every year at the annual GSA meeting, we hold a joint poster session with SEPM and the Sedimentary Geology Division of GSA that is aimed at students. Students are able to present their work, and we organize judges to score the posters, and we use that to identify 4 winners, and the 4 winners receive $500 cash prize, which is pretty sweet. So this year we had 20 e-posters and 22 abstracts. You can actually still see these presentations. They were all fabulous, and we are very pleased. Just every year we're so impressed with all the amazing things that our students are doing in sedimentary geology. And through some hard work, we narrowed it down to the 4 winners who I'll announce here. The first one is Sarah Biddle, who's from the University of Alberta. We have Fanga Chen from China University of Geosciences and Queen's University, Rodrigo Naro Perez from the University of Alberta, and Mildred Zepeda Martinez from Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico. And I have 4 slides that kind of just gives you the bird's eye overview of their winning posters. The first one from Sarah is focusing on bioturbation in marine mudrocks of the Richhorn River Group in the Northwest Territories. So you can see if you want to go check out this in a little bit more detail, you can look up the poster session that was held on Monday, and you can still access the e-posters at that link I provided earlier. And Fang Chen studied manganese deposits of the South China Block, a new type of upwelling related ore. So you can see her poster here. Very different topic, but also very interesting. We have the sedimentological analysis of a lateral moraine in, I won't try to pronounce it, Gijukjokul, Iceland. I actually listened to the presentation. I tried to pronounce it correctly, but it's escaped me at this point. So some really great detailed sedimentology of a lateral moraine by Rodrigo Naro Perez, and Mildred Zepeda Martinez's presentation is looking at the tectono-sedimentary evolution of the Tlaxiaco Basin in southern Mexico. And so just give kudos to these 4 students. We will be in touch to get your contact information, and you will receive a well-deserved check from the Sedimentary Geology Division and SEPM for $500 for your work. So we thank you for participating in our poster session, and if other students are out there and you plan on participating in future years, we encourage you to consider putting your poster up for an award. And it's always a lot of fun to see what everybody's doing, and to be able to recognize at least a few of our students for their awesome work. Another awesome student we have to recognize tonight is Jessica Raff, and Jessica has joined us on the call. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Jessica for the next few slides. She's going to give us a little bit update about her GSA research proposal, is variability in the Asian monsoon and Himalayan erosion recorded in the Ganges-Brahmaputra Delta. So we have Jessica that we will unmute, and I've got a few slides to share with you about her work. So Jessica, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Hi. So hi, everyone. And thank you so much, Amy, for the introduction. And thank you very much to the Sedimentary Geology Division for this award. I was going to share my video, but it's like flipped the other way and I don't know how to switch it. So for now, I will just take you through my slides. So for this award, I am researching basically whether or not we can find signals of Himalayan denudation and changing monsoon strength in the Ganges-Brahmaputra magma delta. So in this panel A on the left here, you can see Bangladesh and the Ganges-Brahmaputra delta here. And the Brahmaputra River kind of runs up along the Shillong Massif to the east. And when I was working on my PhD work with Steve Goodbread, I'm currently doing like a very detailed sediment budget for the delta. We noticed this kind of signal in these lower 2 transects that I've highlighted in panel B. So transect G and transect H are separated by about 50 kilometers. And what I'm showing in this panel is basically the mud to sand ratio with depth. So on the x-axis, I have depth, and at the left, we have the surface sediments, and then towards the right, it's deeper stratigraphy up to 90 meters. And then at the top of the y-axis, we have 100% sand, and then at the bottom of the y-axis, it's 100% mud. And what we noticed is that in this deeper early Holocene stratigraphy, we have these 2 transects that are very far apart, kind of mimicking each other with this cyclical pattern. And then as we reach kind of this transition into mid to late Holocene material, those 2 transects start to diverge in the amount of sand that is preserved, but they still have that cyclical kind of shape to them. So we were thinking that, you know, this might indicate that the delta stratigraphy might record some signal of allogenic processes happening in the delta. Amy, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So what else stood out to us is when we were working on reconstructing this detailed sediment budget, we noticed some trends in not only the amount of material stored in the early Holocene, but also the caliber of the material stored in the early Holocene. So on the left, I have an interpolated map showing the thickness of Holocene sediment stored in the delta. And from this, we were able to reconstruct the volume of sediment and the mass of sediment through time. And what we see is that in the early Holocene, we have about 1.4 times as much sediment stored compared to the mid to late Holocene. And the other thing that stands out is looking at this coarse sand material here. So the details of this graph on the right are not super important for this, but basically what I'm showing here is towards the left of both the top and the bottom panel, we have the delta apex, and then it moves towards the coast, towards the right of the graphs. And then depth is shown on the y-axis for both from 0 to 90 meters. And
I don't know what's going on.
We have the fraction of coarse sand at the top, and then the mass of coarse sand on the bottom graph. And what you can see is that in the Jamuna Valley, we have kind of this spike in coarse sand around 80 meters in depth. And this is something that we see in the Ganges and the Meghna valleys as well. So this got us thinking that we might have some sort of signal recorded in the delta. So we have a basin-wide increase in coarse material. We have higher sediment storage in the early Holocene, corresponding with a strong early Holocene monsoon. So we were thinking that this might be some sort of change in erosion or transport linked to that monsoon strength. Next slide, please, Amy. So our hypothesis that we're aiming to test is basically, we hypothesize that early Holocene denudation rates corresponding with this strong monsoon, this increased sediment storage, this coarser material will be measurably higher than those that have been measured in the modern system, and also those that we could measure from the mid to late Holocene. So on the right, I'm showing kind of this database of modern beryllium-10 dates that have been taken in the Brahmaputra catchment. And our plan is to measure beryllium-10 and aluminum-26 on 10 different Brahmaputra sourced sediments samples from our delta, and try and compare them to these values that have already been measured in the Brahmaputra catchment. So that's kind of our plan going forward. We've identified those samples. Because of COVID, our timeline is a little bit off, but I'm really looking forward to diving into this this winter. So thank you again to the Sedimentary Geology Division for this award, and I'm really excited. This award is going to be really useful for paying for these analyses, so thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Jess, and we look forward to seeing you at a future GSA where you can hopefully get some data. That would be great. All right, well, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Here we go. All right, excuse me. So our next award that we'd like to announce was recently awarded. It's the 2020 Laubach awardee, who is Leonardo Del Sol at the Department of Biological, Geological, and Environmental Sciences at the University of Bologna. The Laubach Award is specified to support the intersection of structural geology and diagenesis. So wherever you have fluids interacting with rock, in particular sedimentary rock, this award can support that research. So Leonardo submitted his proposal, the analytical and numeric experiment to simulate fluid flow and constrain cement precipitation processes with deformation bands in porous sandstones. And you can see a few images from his winning proposal to the right there. So we congratulate Leonardo for this award, and we look forward to seeing the work that he's able to accomplish with this support. And if you are interested in this kind of subset of specialties or of geology, this award is open to faculty, graduate students of all levels, postdoctoral researchers, anybody who's conducting research. And we've had awards in the past that have gone to people from all stages of their career. And we encourage you to keep an eye out on our social media and on our webpage when we announce the 2021 call for applications. All right, now we come to the part of our celebration where we acknowledge the recipient of the highest award that our division has to offer, and that's the Lawrence L. Sloss Award, which this year went to Carlton Brett. And we have Dr. Thomas Algio on the call here, who will open up with a citation, and then we'll hand it off to Dr. Brett. So Thomas, you can have the stage.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Amy. It's my honor to be the citationist for Carlton E. Brett's award of the 2020 Lawrence L. Sloss Award for Sedimentary Geology. Carl is an outstanding earth scientist who's made numerous impactful and lasting contributions to the fields of stratigraphy, sedimentology, and paleoecology, who has mentored many generations of undergraduate and graduate students, and who has promoted the earth sciences in myriad ways, including service to the Geological Society of America. Carl's research has led to many important discoveries, new concepts, and refinements of technique. He is first and foremost the doyen of Paleozoic sequence and event stratigraphy. His decades of field work on successions in the Northeast and Midwest have generated new insights into the origin and significance of many types of sedimentary deposits and event horizons. Wherever he has worked, his field studies have contributed mightily to a refinement of that region's stratigraphy, resulting in the development of Neo-Ulrichian stratigraphic models emphasizing regional or wider stratal correlatability. These models, while not in opposition to fashionable earlier ideas regarding lateral facies transitions, represent an important modification of them. In the field of evolutionary paleoecology, Carl proposed the concept of coordinated stasis, a hypothesis that ecosystems generally persist unchanged in their ecological associations for millions of years, followed by intervals of rapid change during which one dynasty or ecological evolutionary subunit is replaced by another. This theory has fundamentally reshaped our view of how marine ecosystems operate at geological timescales. These ideas were the outgrowth of Carl's long-term studies of Silurian and Devonian marine fossil biotas of the Appalachian Basin, but they are relevant to marine ecosystems of all ages. In the field of taphonomy, Carl has worked to understand relationships between depositional processes, time averaging of fossil assemblages, and physical processes controlling their preservation. This work has led to the development of novel concepts, such as comparative taphonomy and tapophases. He was instrumental in organizing the Shelf and Slope Taphonomy Initiative, which examined taphonomic processes and tapophases in modern marine environments using standardized samples of biotic remains. This represented a clever approach to putting the study of taphonomy on a more quantitative and empirical foundation. In my view, harnessing the present to better understand the past is the signature of a great earth scientist. This brief survey of his research accomplishments is inadequate to convey the breadth and depth of his professional oeuvre, which includes more than 300 papers in international science journals, as well as edited volumes on event bed stratigraphy, seismites, trilobites, and crinoids. If asked what his greatest professional accomplishment is, however, I believe that Carl would not cite his published research, but rather the cohort of younger geoscientists whom he has mentored and whom he has set on the pathway to their own professional success. Over the course of his career, Carl has served as the primary advisor for a remarkable 55 master's and PhD students, quite a few of whom are with, as well as for an astounding 500 or so undergraduate research projects. Carl is widely revered by his current and former students for his role in their professional development, and he is highly regarded by his colleagues and scientific collaborators for his fecund intellect and his gentlemanly manner. The Lawrence L. Sloss Award is given to a sedimentary geologist whose lifetime achievements best exemplify those of Larry Sloss, and no one is better suited to be honored with this award than Carl Brett. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And with that, we will open the mic to Carl.
Oh, unmuted. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you. Go.
you.
It's all you.
Well, we'll see how this goes. I'm used to running slides on my own, but I will try to look at my screen and let you know when I want to shift. I thank you so much, Tom, and everybody else for your. I don't know if my face is on, but for your kind words and for all the support that I've had from you. Thank you. And everyone in the community for many years. It's just been a delight. And I'm delighted to receive this award. I was really stunned and honored to hear about this. You know, Larry Sloss was really a sort of lifelong hero of mine, almost, well, not quite from my earliest days, but certainly he was one who who provided a very important paradigm, really the founder in some ways of sequence stratigraphy that I was fascinated by, and still teach my students the Sloss sequences. And again, I guess I should say, and I don't know, I'm going to try to switch my own slides here and see if I can do that. And so we could probably move on. Thank you. I just want to say that it's just remarkable to be honored for doing what has been really a lifelong passion and maybe almost an addiction of mine, studying natural history, I guess, in the broad sense, but both paleobiological things as well as sedimentary geology. You know, life is contingent. We never knew that better than this year, did we? And I feel very fortunate that the twists of fate have led me to such an extraordinarily fun and interesting career. I'm grateful to many people who have helped and inspired me, and I want to kind of go through that just a little bit. And forgive me if I may pass over someone, but there are still many people to thank, and I want to really bring out some of how their help has shaped me. You know, growing up as I did till I was 10 in rural southeastern New Hampshire, I kind of wanted to be, I lived on a small farm, wanted to be a farmer, naturalist, an artist. And my father was an artist. I went down to the coast and got marine life, and I drew and I sketched everything from clams to cows. And of course, the farm buildings of my youth are some things here that I had painted. And then next, please. As I went on, my father, who was, let's see if can you switch, please? It's a little hard. Okay.
I think
yeah.
I'm having a little bit of a screen issue. Is it there?
Sorry, can I switch him?
No, I just somehow.
Okay, very well. So my parents were both teachers, and they, most of all, I think they encouraged me to do what I felt I wanted to do. And I think that was a huge boost for me. And I greatly admired them both. My father was an artist and craftsman and a farmer and a designer and a revered professor in his own right. And I took a lot of inspiration from that. And that's how I thought to be an artist or something. But away I went. Next one, please. And again, I'm not quite seeing. All right. And when I was 10, Dad got a job out in Buffalo. That was a big formative thing for me, although I hated to leave the farm. We came back every summer anyway, and only sold it just a few years ago. But yeah, the move to the Niagara frontier was hugely influential, because here for the first time, and even on the drive out on the thruway, I saw sedimentary rock, and that fascinated me. And pretty soon I was finding fossils, and now sketching things like sedimentary successions in some of the local waterfalls. I began to really get excited about many questions that could be asked about these rocks. I love fossils, but I was also intrigued. You know, what do these contexts mean? What is its age significance of these rocks? What was the world like when those were being laid down? And so it went on from there. Next, please. Yeah, and so my childhood haunts included places that had been studied by one of my other heroes, Amadeus Grabau from Buffalo, when he was a youngster, really about my age when I really got going on this, a late teenager, early 20s, and down to places like the Great Lake Erie Cliffs, where Grabau had delineated the layers, talked about their traceability and what did they mean, as well as documenting the wonderful fossils, the geology of 18 Mile Creek, which I absorbed and went on to these places. Next, please. And I also, I can remember the day after Thanksgiving at age 14, going with one chum from high school, George Sanders, to this place, Niagara Gorge, which I'd read about from Grabau's book, and finding fossils there. It was just absolutely awesome to be in a place like that. And I still take students back there virtually every year, except this year. Next one, please. Yeah, in the Woodstock year of 1969, I graduated high school, and that same year they dried up Niagara Falls. I got to walk on the dry riverbed. This was the only time that happened. The Army Corps of Engineers did it, and I thought, wow, this is great. And I was inspired by Grabau who's been there before to think about writing a little book on Niagara, which I did. And by that time, I was convinced I want to be a paleontologist, a stratigrapher, and ideally, I wanted to work in one of the two meccas of sedimentary geology and paleontology of the Paleozoic, either Western New York State, where I lived, or the Cincinnati region. And amazingly, and so fortuitously, I got to do both. Next one, please. As an undergraduate, next one, please, at the University of Buffalo in the turbulent early 1970s, I pursued stratigraphy and paleontology with a vengeance. I loved all my classes. And I had a very wonderful mentor. He was very humble, didn't do so much research, but a real humanist. And I got to see that side of life a bit more. He let me use a darkroom to practice photography, and so kind to me. And like my parents, he let me do my own thing. That was great. And I remember distinctly on the day of the Kent State shootings that I was in there and I heard the crash of glass in the windows, and my advisor, that Ed Bueller, picked up the stone that had come through, a piece of Cherty Onondaga limestone, and said, he put it in a showcase, and said, Carlton, this is, I think, an Aeolian clast blown through the window. And I thought, wow, this is an amazing character. He sees interesting things, and he kind of got me to think in a more expansive way that isn't all fossils, although I continued to live in the Paleozoic. Next one, please. Next one, yeah. Yeah, so I first encountered Larry Sloss, I think in the UB library, where I was digging into some Earth history texts, including one now quite classic one, which showed a picture from the then fairly recent paper of Sloss, showing these unconformity bounded sequences. Now, as you could see from my drawings, I was interested in these gaps and these sort of breaks in the record, and I thought, wow, you can actually use this to package the stratigraphic record, and that was an exciting idea. Next one, please. Next. Yeah, the year 1973 was really pivotal in my life. I made two very long-term continuing partnerships, which have been great in their different ways. I got engaged to Betty Lou Hilton, who's now Dr. Betty Lou Brent, who is a partner for life. And the same month in October, wow, just think of that, I met Gordon Baird at the University of Rochester. Complete whimsical thing. Somebody told me, wow, there's this guy, I think he works on the same things you do. I said, absolutely true. There was Gordon. We had very common interests. Gordon has just inspired me as well. And I found him to be always just a remarkably keen field stratigrapher. So 4 decades of New York stratigraphy worked out. And as for Betty Lou, well, you know, she's a force to be reckoned with also, and you know, truly inspirational to me in many ways. Okay, next one, please. Yeah, so then I was on to University of Michigan, and some of my mentors there included, of course, Bob Kessling and Jack Dorr, who were, and they sort of led by example. They were the sort of elder statesmen then, and of course, the young rascal Bruce Wilkinson. Many of you know him and probably know that I had some pretty interesting times with him. He really shaped up my logic and reasoning and so on, and kept me on my toes for sure. My actual advisor was Brad McCurda, and I went there to study crino. I was fascinated with those things, but you know, Brad also got me kind of interested in, quite incidentally, in sequence stratigraphy some more. Next one. And at that time, I also collaborated with some fellow students. I didn't like the sort of competitive attitude of some folks at that university, but we decided just, well, we'll get along, we'll cooperate, and we have much of the time since working on a variety of things. And you'll recognize certainly Ed Landing, Dave Lydell, George McIntosh. They were a great inspiration too. Next one. Yeah. And about that time, maybe am I blocking my own picture? Probably, but I always get the webcam thing out of the way for students. an odd way, Brad McCurder was going to industry, and he told that sequence stratigraphy is really where it's at, and that he was going to go to Exxon and work on this new idea that was sort of mysterious at that time. And out it came with the most famous paper, Vail et al. Vail, of course, a student of Larry Sloss and his colleagues, putting out things like this slug diagram and putting sequence stratigraphy on the map, literally. So that got me thinking that's got to be an important thing. Next one, please. Yep. And I was so fortunate the following year, even though my advisor had gone on to Exxon, I continued on. And as I was finishing my dissertation, came the opportunity to go to the University of Rochester. Now, that had to be one of the grand days of my life, too, along with meeting Betty Lou and Gordon, I guess. But, there I was, still working on my thesis in an area that I knew and loved. Certainly my thesis, in fact, was partly on the Rochester Shale, here shown in its oldest type locality in America. And a wonderful place to work and great colleagues. Next. Yeah, just a sampling of some that were there. Dan Fisher was there when I first arrived. Judy Massari came later, and they were very influential on getting me thinking about paleobiology. But Pete DeSalle, also there, another Sloss winner, got me going and thinking much more about sequence strat and also basin analysis and foreland basins. And above all, Kurt Teichert. Now, there are others that I should mention, but Bob Sutton, Larry Lundgren, but Teichert especially was a giant, and he was there, and it was so kind, so nurturing to me that he was just a fantastic role model. Next one, please. Yep. And of course, I'm grateful to a legion of students. Just here's Rogue's gallery of some of them. You can tell who doesn't have a Facebook. Anyway, so one can see in them folks who went on to careers that many of them in universities and state surveys and so on. So they were a great set of inspiration and training to me, and I hope that I gave back something to them as well. Next one, please. I can't show them all. There are many other undergrads and masters too that I didn't put. They, Western New York is a classic testing ground for ideas in geology, sedimentary geology, and paleontology. With this host of students and Gordon Baird, we went out to literally hundreds of streams over the years and worked out a kind of sequence stratigraphy of our own. There's Gordon up one of these slimy gullies in upstate New York. And here we would work all day on looking at the rocks and come back the long drives home, seething with ideas and back and forth the conversations of what does this mean, and some ideas to test on our next trip out. And eventually we developed notions of sort of allostratigraphy and a kind of sequence stratigraphy for these offshore sedimentary rocks that we could see had ways that would interface with the grand ideas coming out from Hack and Van Wagner and Vail et al. At that time. Next one, please. And then we began to explore the connections between the sequences that we were developing and taphofacies, what we called taphofacies that were really facies defined by the preservation of fossils, and biofacies. And how could these things put together? And in the next slide, please, I show that we tried to go beyond that to consider how the long-term ecology and evolution of organisms might be related to cycles and events, really arguing that much of the time organisms simply tracked and coming up with this model that we call coordinated stasis. Quite controversial, but I think had elements of good ideas. Anyway, next one, please. Yep. And about this time also, I got involved. I really wasn't the founder of this. It was Eric Powell. It was his idea. I'm trying to show with my cursor, but of course you can't see that. But this was the notion of testing taphofacies in the moderns. I guess That was an idea we generated from the fossil record, and my former student Carla Hubbard was eventually became a mainstay in this program too. We got to work out of submersibles and work in modern marine environments, put down thousands of shells and wood and crabs and urchins on the seafloor, and resample them. There's still a lot down. That was 93, and this project is still going to look at what happens in different environments to these objects over time. That was an amazing thing for a land-based geologist like me to be able to do that. Fantastic. Next one, please. And then next one, please. I'm sorry, I can't change them myself. I would.
It's still
The turning
kind of,
point. I'm sorry. Anyway,
it's kind of delayed. It just takes a while for
yeah,
for my
that's
clip
why I
to
like
catch up.
you know. So this turning point, as I call it, again, I don't think you can see my cursor, but was came along in '97 when a former student of mine, Mary Droser, you heard about her. She's got the Moore medal. Went set up a position actually so she could join her husband, Nigel Hughes, you also just heard about. And then eventually they didn't take that. And my colleagues at Cincinnati, that was at the University of Cincinnati, I should say, had talked to me about this. And then I thought, well, it's not going to happen. And then an amazing thing happened. I was out on an outcrop in the evening, as usual, and by myself, and I hear people coming off the exit here, Milesburg exit, Pennsylvania, saying, "Hey, that's Carl," because I had helped them with a field trip some days before. And by absolute chance, there they were, and they said, "Well, why don't you come to the subway? We'll buy you dinner." And I said, "That's great. I don't have any money." So yeah, I sat there and I said, "Is that, that job's really going to happen, right?" And I said, "If you'll have me, I'm going to apply for that." And that was a huge change because I loved it at Rochester, but there you go. So that's how contingency works. Next one, please. Yeah. And so from 20 years after I started at Rochester, I was at Cincinnati, a marvelous place. And not least because it has a wonderful, I guess I shouldn't call it a natural lab because a lot of it's man-made. It's made at billions of dollars of taxpayers' expense. But there it is, just outside the door is these huge road cuts, brand new in the time that I arrived. And just a wonderful atmosphere for doing sedimentary geology. Next one, please. Yeah, and a wonderful group of colleagues. I'm not showing them all by any means. I think very highly of all colleagues here, and it's just been a nurturing, wonderful environment. I knew Dave Meyer. Arnie Miller was one of the people who called out to me on that exit. So was Craig Deach, our present chair of department or head of department. And of course, the first year I was there, Tom Algio, who you heard a few minutes ago, said, "Look, we've got to run a field conference next fall." So I said, "Oh, well," and in the Cincinnati, and well, I never worked on it, but I thought, okay, why not? And that really got me going on a whole new project area. Paul Potter, the great dawn of sedimentary geology, who has sadly passed this past July, was there, and a great inspiration from long ago. I met him when I was a graduate student coming down to study crinoids at the museum. In the late afternoon one day, with George McIntosh, I heard a voice say aeolian. There was that word again, aeolian. It looks aeolian. And I said, "George, do you say that?" And I, no. There we were in the presence of the great Paul Potter. He said, "Gentlemen, you're working late. Maybe you'd like to have a dinner with me." And so he took us to dinner. And I've always admired his generosity, and he was just such a fountain of knowledge and goodwill as well, that I miss him greatly. Next one, please. And of course, again, I just have to call out to a great group of students that worked with me here and brought their own perspectives, as always, taught me a lot. I hope I taught them a little, at least. I give a shout out to the ones that are in progress now, Chris O'Coin and Allison Young, Cole Farnham and Josie Chiarello, all doing great things. But these are the ones in the past, and you can see on to good things, many in academics, and a very proud of them. Next one, please. Yep, and I've gotten a lot of good help, goodwill from the Cincinnati Museum, Glenn Storrs, oops, should have two N's, and Brenda Honda, both great colleagues from the museum. And I have to shout out to the Cincinnati Dry Dredgers, the oldest amateur group in the country, established by Ken Castor back in the 40s. There they are out on outcrop. Next one, please. Now, many of them very knowledgeable and very cooperative and a great fountain of information. Here's Kyle Hartshorn, one of my great colleagues, who is working with me on various projects. You can see he's talking about road cuts after dark, and I suppose if you know me, you probably know what that refers to. Next one, please. Ben DiTillo and others, as well as students, have worked with me on a new view of these cycles in the Cincinnatian. The limestones aren't just storm beds, and no, they don't just end in an outcrop. They can be traced for miles, and that led me sort of to a different perspective than I think people may have had before, although Steve Holland, certainly another great colleague of mine, had done great work before this that I just built on. Next one, please. And then there were, this is part of a long tradition at Cincinnati. Going back, there were people like E.O. Ulrich, Uncle Happy, doesn't he look happy? Well, this guy was started as a janitor and worked his way up to one of the great geologists in the early 1900s, but later often castigated for his layer cake approach. Well, look at these cuts and traced them out bit by bit and said, my gosh, they're more layer cake in some ways than he thought. And for the different reasons that have to do with allo cycles and large widespread events. And I tried to transform what I called EO Ulrichian. You can't see my cursor, but EO Ulrich to Neo Ulrichian type stratigraphy, as Tom mentioned. Next one, please. Yep, and SETI goes on. SETI is this project on modern taphonomy, and we're hoping, possibly, we met a few weeks ago, to get back and get samples back. So that taphonomy project goes on. Next one, please. Next one, please. Yep, and during this time also, I got involved in a variety of international activities on the Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian subcommissions. A Humboldt Award, and also a NATO award when they had such things. And this got me out of my usual Eastern North America, looking at event stratigraphy and global sea level around the planet, which was fantastic. Next one, please. Just a little sampling of some of the things. So worked on sequence strat in the Silurian Devonian on the Carnic Alps. And then next one. Next one. The fantastic Devonian sections in Morocco, looking at sort of a new view of the trilobite beds there that never had been studied really, with colleagues from Senckenberg Institution in Germany. Next one, please. Next one. Yep, looking at cycle stratigraphy and Anacostia and Silurian rocks and Ordovician. Next, please. Next. Yeah, and in China, looking at the sequence and event stratigraphy of some new stratotype areas there. Fantastic scenery and wonderful hosts and just a great place to do field work. Next one, please. Next one, please. And in the Czech Republic. So this has all gotten me excited in a theater. Next one, please. Almost the end. Yep, and that is looking at bio-events and also the times of no bio-events, the times of stasis in life's history in relationship to the volatility of physical environmental change, of how does this link then with sequence stratigraphy? Are there times when there are more or fewer cycles? What's going on with paleoclimate? And how can these features recorded in the geologic record be related back to the events of the biosphere? It all makes me wish for another life or two, because I can't finish this all, and it's going to be up to my students and others to carry this exciting work forward. But next one, please. This brings me back to, next one, please, to my students who have been such a constant source of learning and inspiration for me. I view students as junior colleagues. They inspire me, keep me on my toes. The possibility of direct interaction and involvement with students at all levels in research and in teaching just keeps what might become routine always vibrant and exciting. And some of my most important research projects have really come from seemingly simple questions asked by undergrad students in the field, to which I say, well, yeah, that's the sort of question Bruce Wilkinson would ask me, and I don't know, but let's look into it. There's nothing so gratifying as seeing these students develop sparks of interest and then seeing them go on to pursue their own careers or at least studies in earth sciences. And so I've been so fortunate to get to work with so many wonderful students. And finally, and really last almost, is back to one more, maybe two more, please. Change. Yeah, back to Dr. Betty Lou Brett, Grandma Brett. She's a remarkable individual. She remains a hero to me and to her, to my kids, Kenton and Leanne, and our grandchildren, who have put up with a very eccentric father growing around the world and especially in Kentucky in search of rocks and fossils and what they tell us about the history of our planet. So I send kudos to this wonderful family. Next one, please. And last, the future lies. Yep. What I'm doing now, well, you know, it's a funny year, and our children and grandchildren live with us now. So there you have it. But I'm still getting out in the field, and here is a next one coming along. This is little Aurora on an outcrop, and my hope is, of course, that maybe she or others like her will go on to solve some of the still many remaining puzzles and have, as I've had, a wonderful life. I want to thank you all very much for this great honor, and as you can see, I couldn't have done it by myself. I get by with a lot of help from my friends and my family. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you so much, Carl. That was fantastic. It was really great to see your journey and hear about your experiences. And yeah, it's been a wonderful career, and we're happy that we have the opportunity to acknowledge it. And that is our sort of culmination of our event tonight. We do have one more kind of poll that I'd like to launch at the very end, and basically just also want to encourage you all to stay connected. We have social media. We are kind of trying to get our LinkedIn page and group more active. I think it's a great way that people who are coming up in their career as a sedimentary geologist can get to know each other without some of the pitfalls of other social media platforms. Our connected community page also has a lot of resources. We're trying to get it more responsive, so you can check it out for updates, post discussions, find opportunities to support your career as a sedimentary geologist. Abstracts are being solicited for the upcoming section meetings, GSA section meetings in the spring. Plan on attending the International Sedimentary Geoscience Congress in April. Propose a session for next GSA, when hopefully we might actually be in person if we have any luck at all. And then the last poll I'd like to launch before we wrap everything up is asking you, what do you think you would like to see as part of the activities in the upcoming year that the SED Geology Division in partnership with SEPM could put together and give you a lifeline of sedimentary experiences? We have a few ideas. A career panel that we thought would be of interest, especially to early career people. We try to pull sedimentary geologists that have a variety of career paths that could discuss what they found valuable and how they got to where they are. A journal club where we would pull articles from recent GSA and SEPM publications and have a open discussion that we have done in the past, and I think was it was informal. It was mainly organized by students, so it wasn't a formal lecture, but it was mainly for students to get together and kind of discuss the latest in sedimentary geology research. We've also discussed having a mixer event where we could break out into interest groups around topics in sedimentary geology, around topics related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, topics related to the future of communicating and how we can interact in virtual and online platforms. Potential for a virtual field trip if we have a couple possibilities where we could have people take you to their field area and get a guided tour of sedimentary rocks via the internet. Or if you have some other idea that you would like to share with us, hit us up on social media, send an email to either me or any of the other people in the division. And we're hoping that, now that we've sort of made some adjustments, we're all more familiar with these online video conferencing tools, and that we can put those to work to keep us connected as we move forward in sort of a brave new world. So we've got, I think our poll is probably going to be closing here in about 30 seconds. Please give us your responses, and we can kind of see what you all say, and then we will conclude our evenings. And thank you for joining us. I know it's been a stressful year and a particularly intense fall, and definitely appreciate everybody making the effort to be a part of this. So it looks like if I close the poll, I can share the results with you, but it looks like the virtual field trip, we're all anxious for some sedimentary rocks. That's a very popular one, and the career panel and sedimentary mixer also have some interest as well. So that's great feedback. We really appreciate it. We'll take that into consultation when our board will meet to discuss our future plans. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for participating. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of the GSA online meeting, and we hope to see you in the new year. Thank you, everybody.